Thought I'd make this quick video to talk about the new Nikon mirrorless cameras that are about to come on the market very soon. I've been shooting with Sony mirrorless cameras for the last 4 or 5 years, so I thought I'd just give my input on what I think generally of mirrorless versus DSLR or your regular point and shoot cameras or even a mobile phone. Basically, if you want to do video, then mirrorless is very good, and that's the reason I got my mirrorless camera originally, but I ended up taking a lot more photos than I did video. I shoot with the Sony A6000 and before that the Sony NEX5N. Both are very capable cameras, but they're not full frame, they're what we call APS-C, which is a smaller sensor. Now this new Nikon, this is a full frame sensor. It looks pretty impressive. It looks a lot like the new generation Sony A7R3 or A7 III or Mark III. It does a lot of things that that camera does, but it has a few features such as this screen on top. It has a better sort of ergonomic feel to it by the design, and it has, those touches that make it a Nikon. Now, if you're thinking about switching to mirrorless, or if you're thinking about buying your first professional level camera, I would definitely recommend mirrorless in most circumstances, except if you want to photograph in very low light. One of the things I've found with all mirrorless cameras is if you try to focus at night or in very, very low light, it can struggle. This is still one area where DSLRs tend to be better than mirrorless cameras, is very low light focusing. A lot of times if you try to focus with a mirrorless camera, it will just hunt and you'll see the focus going back and forth. These mirrorless cameras tend to have a little light, so you can see here there's a light in the corner and here as well, and that light comes on when it's very dark and it tries to give the camera a bit more light to focus with. In the case of a Sony, that's like an orange light. I believe in the case of the Nikon, it'll be a green light. The other problem with this light is, like, if you're trying to take pictures of people without them knowing, you want to take candid shots, it's a very obvious sign that you're focusing on that person, because they'll suddenly see a big bright green or bright orange light on them. So that's one big disadvantage. But I think for most people, the advantage of a mirrorless camera versus a DSLR is huge. I think the biggest advantage is the size and the weight, especially if you like to travel. And if you like to go on these low budget airlines like Ryanair, EasyJet, where you mainly just carry everything on board with you on the plane, you're limited on how much luggage space they give you and how much weight they give you. I mean, you certainly don't want to buy an expensive system and then check it in with all the regular luggage, and you don't know what will happen to it, when it's on hold. So for people that like to travel, mirrorless cameras are really good. I think the biggest advantage of this Nikon over the Sony is this mount. This new Z mount is very large. That very large mount means that it will let in a lot more light, and it means that they'll be able to create new lenses which will not suffer so much from being dull in the corners. It'll be bright across the whole frame. That's something that I think Sony cameras at full frame do suffer with. They do have problems with the corners being a little bit darker than it is in the center, but usually you can fix them in software such as Lightroom. As far as everything else goes, they're pretty similar to the Sony, except for one major thing which everybody seems to be complaining about, and that is that these cameras only have one memory card slot, and it's a brand new type of memory card slot where the memory cards are very, very expensive. SD card prices have come down a lot. The new memory card that these Nikons use is very expensive, and there's only one. So for people such as wedding photographers, that's really going to put people off, because you don't want to shoot a wedding and possibly lose all the photos. So this is something which I think is aimed at the enthusiast, and I think they'll probably have dual card cameras a couple of years from now. If you're thinking about buying a mirrorless camera, I couldn't really recommend this at the minute because there's only 3 lenses for it. However, if you happen to have lots of Nikon lenses, then you can use this adapter, and that should hopefully focus fairly well. It won't focus as well as a native lens, but it should focus well enough for most people. The only exception might be if you're trying to use it in sports photography. It'd probably be a bit slow for that. Now, generally speaking, I've been very happy with mirrorless cameras. I think basically this isn't a competition between Sony and Nikon at the moment. It's really a competition between DSLR and mirrorless, and I think the fact that Nikon have decided to come on board and bring out a mirrorless camera says a lot. It shows that this is the future. Having a camera where you have a mirror that flaps up and down, that's loud, it's heavy, I think that's the past, and I think we're going to be moving to smaller cameras about this size. And I think, if you want to look at a brand new camera, definitely consider a lot of the mirrorless cameras out there. Sony makes some good cameras, Olympus, Panasonic, Fuji, and now it looks like Nikon is joining the family. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions about mirrorless cameras in general, feel free to post in the comments below. Thank you.